for this.
Yeah, me too. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. And we're about to get started. So, hello. We are... Yeah, I got me and Kelly, and I'm just wanting to get a couple of people in here before we get started. And make sure that everything's still good on that. Okay.
I'm giving you peak high school senior Kelly with my beanie.
Nice.
And my emo colors.
Yes.
And the short hair, because I had a pixie cut senior year of high school.
Yeah, is that the wig, or did you actually go down and get that cut yet?
No, it's a wig. I have not. My hair did not look great. It needs to be washed. Quarantine life.
Quarantine life hashtag.
Yeah.
So hello everybody.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi SoFlo.
Hey SoFlo. All right, I'm ready to get started. So I'll do a brief countdown. I'll make myself big and start doing the intro. So
okay.
Go down in 3, 2, 1. Hello everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Make Mine Mayday, the show about Spider-Girl and her world in the MC2 and its fandom. This edition, we are covering the entirety of the 5th volume of the Spider-Girl Digest while continuing the Complete Collection's 2nd volume. And if you're reading this on Marvel Unlimited or happen to have the single issues, we're going to be covering issues 23 through 27 tonight. Before we get too far in, I wanted to give a shout out to our Patreon page and at patreon.com/Spidey Network. And I wanted to give a shout out to our two of our patrons, Vinkman and Scott. Thank you guys for your contributions and your support. If you want to see what all the fuss is about, go to patreon.com/Spidey Network for more information, or subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the star of the program herself, Kelly.
I'm a star. I think our star is Mayday over here, not me.
That's true. Yeah. It's Mayday, but you know, you are the ambassador for Mayday. So you are such a you and Mayday are. I just when I think of Mayday, I think of you. So
that's very sweet and probably sad for Mayday's character, but thank you. I would hope she's not dealing with my Parker luck this week. But you know, hey. So, hi everybody.
Hello. So we got some housekeeping, right?
Well, housekeeping. I should probably stop calling it housekeeping. It's like hype train, but we do have a special episode. The 13th episode is all about Dark Devil. And we are going to go over his mini on Tuesday, April 13th. I know it's not Friday the 13th, but what can you do? It is the 13th episode, so it felt right to be on the 13th day of the week. Plus, it is right before Zach's wedding, so this is his special treat of we're going to let him talk about Dark Devil for 2 hours.
Let me tell you, I'm sitting there reading it, and I'm going, man, how do I do the context without just sounding so nerdy? And
no, that's the whole point. I've already explained. If you don't know who Dark Devil is, and you don't have references to point at it or explain the comic, you sound like you're on meth.
It's true. It's true.
He's one of those characters that just don't work on they don't work on paper but somehow work. So
they shouldn't. No, it is bonkers. It is crazy for those that have never seen it or have never read this miniseries. I tell you, it's bonkers. That's just and if you hate clones, then that probably is not your episode for you. So, because there's a lot of Ben Reilly and Kane references and stuff, but yeah, no, really excited about that one. Big week for me, and then we're going back to our normal schedule with Wednesdays.
Yeah, so we won't have an episode next Friday because we're going to do it on Tuesday, and then we will be back the Friday after.
Yeah, no Spidey Dude experience next week. It'll be the following week when the new issue of ASM comes out. So that is all the housekeeping I've got.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's like news-y slash just an update is I have been told from a few fans that are not in the U.S. that their bookstores and comic book shops are showing that Spider-Girl Volume 3 is not coming to their country until like May and June and July. Ours is still 420. It's still April 20th for the US. I'm slightly wondering if the only people printing it is in the US and then it's got to get shipped outward. Yeah. And that's what's causing the delay. If that's the case, that doesn't sound like it's too many copies being printed, and I'm a little worried about it. But we'll see how it goes. For all we know, it could be more of your mainstream sellers are still going to get it April 20th, and maybe these are more of your mom and pop shops. Mm-hmm. And they're having a hard time ordering it when they're outside of the United States, and that's a possibility. That is kind of the life of comics sometimes. But don't panic if you see somebody talking about it and it's like from June, like it's coming out in June. It's still, according to Amazon and everywhere else I've seen for the US, it is still April 20th. That has not changed. I don't see it changing in the next 11 days. Yeah. So
if there's any changes, just follow us on our social medias. We'll definitely give you guys updates as we get them, and we'll definitely update them on our social medias. And I know Kelly will definitely update on her social media. So if you're watching us on the on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, these little scrolly bar has our Twitter handles, and we're all of our social media scrolling across the screen. So, all right. Without further ado, I guess with that, we'll just jump over to Spider-Girl 23.
I think so.
So Kelly's going to do a couple of recaps. I'll do a couple of recaps, and then Kelly's going to do the final issue because she claimed 27, and I wasn't going to fight her on that one at all. So
no. So I'm going to start off the first one, and then you're going to do the next two, and then I will do the last two. So, yes. Spider-Girl 23. It's Nancy Liu's first appearance. Cover date is August 2000. On Dale date, Zach? You wrote Dale and then date. Sorry.
Just I was typing too fast.
It's fine. Dale date. So the actual sale date is June 14th. It's collected in Volume 2 of the Complete Collection and Volume 5 of the Digest. We start with May as a center. I'm pretty sure she's playing center here in her basketball. I tried my talking about basketball positions and pulling that information out of my head from high school. So if I am slightly wrong, don't blame me. I haven't played since I blew my knee out. But we start with May as center, which with her skill set makes sense. Davida must be a forward, and that's why I went on this rant about this, because I was a forward. And knowing my short high school career in basketball, I was the shortest forward in the circuit, and I was also the most filed out for being rough. I don't see these as a correlation, but I feel like Davida understands the spirit. So Mayday's spider sense seems to go off with the other team's center, and it looks like the ball just kind of veers towards her. We're really wondering who this girl is. This game feels really all sorts of off, with May tripping somehow, and May doesn't trip because of her powers. May feels incredulous about the situation. It was a good word, and that is direct from the comic, and clears her head with a little web slinging and stalking the girl out. Nancy seems normal, minus the fact that she doesn't listen to music while studying, which even May thinks is weird. I agree. It's weird. Why are you studying silence? But May is concerned that her spider sense is still going off on Lucky Liu, and she can't figure out why. The next day, May is still annoyed about the game when Jimmy wants to pad the spelling bee out with people he knows he can beat. He's teasing Courtney about it when Moose shows up. Moose stays firmly in Courtney's corner and says while he knows he doesn't have to fight Courtney's battles for her, some kids do actually need help, and he wants to help set up a neighborhood watch for them. JJ comes into this conversation and asks May to come with him to the Daily Bugle because his grandfather wants to give her a job. My question is, did she ask for this? She didn't ask. This is kind of weird. So anyway,
this is typical Jonah.
It is, but it's like it's awkward. Like, where is the agency? And we'll talk about that later when it comes to JJ and agency. But this is kind of the first part of it, and May is really lost in thought about the situation while training with the Lady Hawks. The one May has deemed the obnoxious one was recently injured in Spider-Girl 21, which we discussed last episode. And with the kind of brace that is drawn on her, I kind of feel like it looks more like she got her ACL torn, and how she's even walking and trying to train with them, I don't know. Because being up and at it so soon after that, like, that is some tough skills, because it is not fun. And yeah, I'm not going to go into my rant about like my own knee injury, which I wrote on Monday. That's great. But anyway, ACL tears are really bad in its ligaments, which is why I'm assuming that's what's happening. Anyway, Lady Hawk saw completely through May playing slow and easy and went off on her because she wants to push herself. But you really should probably rest that injury. May also starts to feel like it's unfair, because this kind of brings up this question of it feels like it's unfair for her to be on the basketball team when she can't really give it 100% and be fair with the other players. Then JJ and May head to the Daily Bugle, and Jonah wants her to be a freelance photographer, which I don't remember it feeling so off-putting, but like it really felt off-putting rereading this. So I'm sure that's the point. So then May is still stalking Nancy. Her mind is lost in thought on the job offer when Dark Devil decides to shake things up a bit. Dark Devil thinks May is in the neighborhood stalking Funnyface and warns her to stop looking for him. And May realizes she can't exactly explain she's stalking a high school rival, so she just kind of runs away from the situation. May sees the kids Moose was talking about and stops a bike theft, but realizes these kids are like younger than 12, so it feels weird for her to use her powers to stop them. She realizes she just needs to confront Nancy about the secret May knows she has, and that's when May sees Nancy save a kid from becoming roadkill, using her mind to push the kid out of the way. As everyone goes to console the child, Nancy runs and May corners her, or Spider-Girl corners her. Nancy admits she's a telekinetic and has been scouted by the X-People, but she didn't ask for these powers, and she just wants to become a doctor with a normal life. She doesn't want to be a part of the X-People or any of this superhero game. Spider-Girl reminds Nancy to not use her powers for silly things, and the day before the game, before another game, May hears the girls talking about how Lucky Lou quit the team for Central, and it makes May really think about her place in Midtown. And that is the end of that issue.
Yeah, so I'm thumbing through this issue and following along in the recap because I got the floppies. For me, these ads take me back. X-Men, the movie, was coming out. This was during the period of time with Paul Jenkins, Paul Jenkins' Peter Parker Spider-Man run. Mm-hmm. It was starting this particular month. I saw that in the bullpen bulletins. So this is a transitional time in Spider-Man's history. For the last year or so, year and a half, we've seen Peter's, the reboot occurring with Mackie and Byrne, and now Spider-Girl is being joined with Tom DeFalco's Spider-Girl is being joined with Paul Jenkins' Spider-Man. So it starts to get back to normal. And then, of course, this is around 2000, so this is X-Men the movie was the big hot film, and They got all the toys and all the fun stuff with Toy Biz. So definitely takes me back. I think this issue is very good at highlighting the inner struggle with May's powers.
Mm-hmm.
Up until now, it was kind of on the back burner, like with the basketball aspect, and it's something that completely separates May from Peter. You know, Peter did have his moments where he kind of let loose. For example, like boxing with Flash, but it's something that's never really explored in the 616. However, it was explored in the Ultimate line, which would be debuting later on this same year. So
Yeah.
May being a natural athlete, it's nice to see that it being a focus here. And for some reason, I just really like this cover. And I think the covers across...
It's a great cover. It's just, you really don't know, you know, if you're just looking at the cover, you have no clue that this issue is just going to be about Nancy.
Yeah.
So you think it's something crazy, and it's not really at all.
It's very grounded, but I really appreciate that. And so, yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Kelly.
I mean, most of my notes wound up being me going on some nostalgia trip on Monday when I first wrote this out. My own knee injury and short-lived basketball career freshman year of high school. So I don't have too many notes other than, like, I do feel this nostalgia when I think about Nancy Liu. I really, really like her character. I like what she brings to the table. This is not the last time we see Nancy. So it's always fun to see her first appearance and see how she really does help May understand that, like, her powers, you know, she does have a responsibility with her powers, and sometimes that means that you don't always use them for personal gain. And even though she tries her best not to here, you know, at the end of the day, she's not, you know, she is still using her powers. We find out later how much she does rely on her powers when she plays. And that's really not fair to the other team members. And that's, you know, we're starting to kind of see her understand, even if it is, like, because it's for her friends, it's for her team, it's still kind of a personal gain issue here because she's not using them to help others, if that makes sense. So it's a lot of fun. This issue's a lot of fun. I really like it, but I like Nancy. I like these kind of grounded stories like this. I think, like, one of my favorite parts is definitely Dark Devil being like, "You're here for funny face," and Meg's like, "I can't tell you that I'm here stalking someone."
Yeah, the dichotomy with that kind of does make me laugh. I'm like, okay, guys and gals, like,
yeah,
yeah. This is the issue that I really like. Dark Devil. There's a couple issues down where I'm irritated with them. But for those that are watching us on YouTube, I am showing the actual cover to the issue. So there it is. I will stop sharing my screen. So
you're good. So that's really, I mean, like I said, it's a solid issue. Kind of low stakes because it's just about Nancy, and Nancy's not evil. She's just a girl with powers that she doesn't really want. And we don't really touch base too much on that other than, you know, she didn't really see that it was wrong for her to use her powers at school until she talked to Spider-Girl. And therefore then, because she made her actions, it made May reevaluate her place on her own team. Even though she does not leave the team until way later.
Yeah. It's not. This is the kind of the genesis of that ongoing background storyline. So
yeah.
All right, now it's my turn for Spider-Girl, number 24 review. All right, September 2000 cover date. July 12th, 2000 was the on sale date, and I actually spelled sale right instead of Dale. DeFalco, Olive, and Williamson are our team, as they are on every issue this particular go-around. Our issue opens with May taking down a group of muggers. One happens to escape, and May saw the pure terror on his face and thinks that maybe he was thinking about a career change. After being chastised by a random dude on the street, she's similarly chastised from her father. She decides to prepare a sandwich that Dagwood would love, but after getting a comment from her mother, she decides to set it down and put it away. Her dad gives her a pep talk about joining the Bugle during this period of time, saying it would be really beneficial for her to, keep her pulse on the ground. And she's like, look, I'm just going to go get some boots. Like that, I'm just going to save some money, get some boots. And so Peter's kind of just irate about this unnecessarily. We cut to the bank where a man who calls himself Dragonfist succeeds to rob it. Meanwhile, at Midtown, we get a scene in which JJ is talking to some girls. We actually saw it from his perspective in the Buzz miniseries, but May is put off by it. Phil and Peter are at the crime scene, and once again, Phil chooses to try to play hero. Meanwhile, back at the Bugle, and they're by launching their own investigation instead of letting the detectives do it. Back at the Bugle, JJJ is trying to recruit May, and she's suddenly assigned to Ms. Moore, who is really irked that she got put on the puff piece for Mayday's sake instead of doing some hard-hitting investigative journalism like, I don't know, Dragon Fist. Stay tuned. So they go visit the set of the movie. Peter and Phil, kind of in talking back and forth, kind of hypothesize that maybe Danny Rand's involved, so they kind of go see where he's his old stomping grounds, and they got scooped by the actual detectives. Upon arrival, Danny shows up to talk to Jackie Lee, who is this big action star. He's now having the crest of the dragon on his chest, and of course, who shows up but Danny Rand. Danny Rand shows up, and they have a brief sparring session, and May attempts to try to shoot it on the camera. It does not end well.
Best part.
Spoiler. She tries to shoot the sparring between these two people, and we cut to her house, and she's trying to develop it.
I'm gonna hold my. Well, it's not even developing. It's a digital camera. I'm gonna hold my breath. I'm gonna hold my tongue for my opinions on that, because that just.
Oh yeah, it's just glorious. Davita's like, maybe you should talk to your dad, and so Mayday runs downstairs, and she's like, Jay's like, your dad and Phil are working on a case. So,
this whole issue. No, this whole issue. There's nobody that looks great. This whole issue.
Nobody looks great in this issue. So, it's like, it is.
Which is why we love them all. To preface, this is why we love them all. Is this? Yes. So, Danny, of course, is back at his dojo, and he decides, he needs to take care of this Dragon Fist character himself. So he suits up as the Immortal Iron Fist. Mayday is, kind of going across town, and all of a sudden, Dragon Fist is robbing another bank, because he can't say. And Mayday's line is regular banking hours between 9 and 4. Although you could always use the emergency for your emergency withdrawal, like ATM machine. So this was really funny. So a brief fight starts to ensue, and looks like he's going to get the upper hand when Danny Rand shows up, and so the two continue to fight. Looks like Dragon Fist has got the upper hand because he's trying to absorb his chi, but Mayday then tries to continue to help. And she doesn't get very far, but her spider sense, because it's different than Peter's, says aim for the belt. So Danny, summons his chi, punches the belt, destroys the machine. Turns out it was one of the stunt doubles from Spike Lee. I said Jackie Lee. Spike Lee. Who'd have figured that Dragon Fist would turn out to be some nameless assistant, right? So. Mayday asks Danny if he's going to get back in the business, and he goes, "No, this is a young man's game, and I'm too old." Peter, you should take notes. Anyway, the last page. Age is nothing but a number.
The last page is she's trying to figure out where her dad is. Where is her dad and Phil? They're sitting outside of Spike Lee's dressing room, just waiting to get an autograph. Peter's like, dude, why am I here? Why did you drag me here, Phil? And Phil's like, just wait. So, yeah. Like, Peter's like, I'm starting to feel like a real jerk being out here. How about you? And Phil's like, no way. Not even close. Okay, maybe a little. Like, it's a really humorous way to end the issue, so.
It's a good issue. It's just super funny. I was never like an Iron Fist fan. I think honestly, this was probably the first time I was made aware of Iron Fist. But I really just enjoy this issue so much. And it's so solid once again. But I love how May can't take a picture on a digital camera that very clearly had the digital screen. There's the fingers, and then one, like, you can see a fingerprint, which that can happen. I remember having the little pink Sony camera, although it was probably a little bit old, like, after this. But I remember having those because
Yeah.
before the days of these smartphones.
Oh.
We had cameras.
As a former electronics salesperson that worked in the electronics area at a big box retailer, yeah, this completely takes me back.
But in any case, my thing is like, she clearly has the digital readout, so she can see what she's pointing at, and somehow, and some of the pictures that like are drawn that she took, I don't even know how. I don't know how that would have happened. And I love it. Like, it's something that I really just want, like, it's a character trait that I feel like should always be there for May. She just should not be able to take a picture whatsoever. Like, has to have, like, her Instagram is, like, horrendous because she can't take a picture. You're muted.
Yeah, you would think that maybe by now she would know, but like, goodness, no. But now in my head canon, it's like, no, she can't. She still has like a clamshell, or she still has the same.
Well, no. I mean, she can have like this, but it's like, unless it's like the selfie mode, there's no way it's happening. It's just, it's not happening, and that's okay.
Ryan Reed points out, I find it Danny with the mustache. He's got the Hogan Fu Manchu. He found it interesting that many characters all grew mustaches in the MCU, MC2, like Billy Walters, Danny Rand, and Jonah let his. Well, I think Jonah just gave up.
I mean, nah.
Somebody probably finally pointed out to him that was probably like a problematic mustache.
Maybe. There you go. They learned that was problematic. There was sensitivity training.
Oh, I could just imagine Jonah in sensitivity training. Oh my god.
There was sensitivity training. There was probably a lawsuit.
And I imagine, like, it's before Robbie, passed away, and he's probably going, well, we needed this for a while. Especially if you read current Marvel with, like, Robbie and Jonah. Oh, no.
Robbie and Jonah and the meth doves.
That's messed up.
You know what? I'm not even gonna explain that entire situation. You just had to kind of be there when I was discussing the latest ASM issue, because this is not that show. But yeah, no, I love that. I mean, also, like, Peter and Phil just being on the movie set is comedic in its own way, because they are literally acting like children. Yes. Sneaking around, and they don't have to. My thing is, they don't even have to. They could easily just, like, their badges, or whatever credentials they have, and be good. No. Because Peter's listening to Phil, and this is why everything's going wrong.
Things we learned today. Don't listen to Phil Urich in the MC2. Okay?
I would say don't listen to Phil Urich at all in any universe.
Yes, well, especially the 616. He's a jackass.
Just don't. But yeah, no, it's just very humorous. And then also, classic 90s reference with the "Who Wants to Be a Millionaire" line. Is that your final answer? When she I think that's her first introduction to Iron Fist, right?
Yes.
In costume? Yeah.
Yes.
And is that your final answer? So there were a lot of good quips here for her, and she's got jokes. I mean, but it's only when it's appropriate.
Right. I'm resisting the urge to not do Regis Philbin. I'm out of control. But you know.
Yeah, don't. There are better times to use that.
All right. R.I.P. Reg.
Yeah.
Yeah. That takes me back to my. I love Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So.
that 2000 pre 9/11 life. It's still 90s.
Right. Yeah.
Still the 90s.
Oof. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I like.
We go to the next.
Yeah. Going to the next one. The Savage Six. I wrote the Sinister Six. That was my bad. You knew what I meant. Everyone knew what I meant.
Yeah, I absolutely knew what you meant, and I was like, I'm not going to correct her. I'm just going to leave it
I
there.
mean, you could have. You should have. I mean,
my bad.
I'll correct myself.
Okay. All right. Spider-Girl number 25, the landmark double-sized anniversary issue, The Savage Six. Cover date of October of 2000. On sale date of August 9th of the year 2000. It's a special double-sized issue of the series. We get 48 pages of awesome. This time with the 25th anniversary special. Our issue begins with the opening splash page teasing the story, but where we then see a police escort gone wrong when Mr. Abnormal and Saberclaw bust out Raptor from being transported to jail. Or the courthouse, one or the other. We then cut to a full-page splash of Mayday debuting her brand spanking new hairdo. She's trying to get everyone's opinion. Moose isn't pleased because he's trying to defend his bro, Brad, before Moose gets checked by his girlfriend, Courtney. JJ comes in and steps in it thinking that maybe May changed her hair for him. Dude, not well played at all.
Again, something about a Jameson and thinking like people don't have agency around them.
Anyway, meanwhile, Funny Face has gathered the rest of the villains for the piece, namely Dragon King, Killer Watt, as well as the aforementioned characters of Saberclaw and Mr. Abnormal. However, the meeting of the minds is interrupted by Crazy 8, and we learn a very important aspect of their, meaning Funny Face and Crazy 8's relationship. They're, in fact, brothers. And their mom sent him to check in on the situation. Nova shows up and is a jackwagon. We learn of a hostage situation from him, and that he's going to go handle it himself, and that he's going to just, he doesn't need an amateur to take care of things. Foreshadowing. Speaking of hostages, JJ tries to learn more about Mayday, while Courtney is apologizing to him on behalf of Moose, and then they get taken hostage themselves. Raptor sends a message to the Bugle by crashing through the window. I would say Raimi Green Goblin style, but I think Raimi Green Goblin stole it from Raptor here. JJ
True.
decides to call the FF and the Avengers. He doesn't want to leave it to an amateur. And so,
well, I don't necessarily think he thinks that of her. It was just more of he was calling. This is his grandson. So
yeah, he's freaking out. As this is very much in character for JJ. So meanwhile, we get a brief battle with Raptor and Mayday, who make short work of her, using her clinging powers to the wall. Each member of the Savage Six has a card to the next location, and May gets Brenda's with ease, of course. Next up, we go to Mr. Abnormal, and for the first time in Mayday's costume career, she has to go down into the sewers. She does not take this well. She sees a rat. She starts freaking out. But then, of course, Mr. Abnormal shows up, uses her agility to tie that loose end up nicely. Sorry. And move on. Then she decides she gets the card and moves on to the next one. Literally, she ties Mr. Abnormal up.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah.
So, meanwhile, we have Crazy 8 chastising Funny Face's plans, thinking it'd be better for all of them to attack Spider-Girl at once. But Face's plan is that doing this individually would tire her out first. So we go to the meat locker, where Saberclaw strikes and tries to take Mayday out. Brad is trying to rally the troops at school, while Mayday is worrying about the physical toll the fights are starting to take on her. Saberclaw continues to try to slash at her. She's like, shouldn't you be going after the X people, because you're like an X-person villain? He's trying to expand his horizons, so to speak, and she's able to. He puts his claw into a hunk of meat, and she's able to use her webbing to subdue him. So he's not very happy about that particular turn of events. So we get next up Dragon King, and he's throwing very heavy things. And I decided to make a dodgeball reference. Uses her dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge skills to avoid disaster. When she decides to use her brains to defeat the baddie, she uses her webbing to web up his arms, because he has a 5-ton container crate that he's about to throw at her. Basically, pulls the arms out from Dragon King and knocks him out cold. So then we have up Killer Watt. He's using distance attacks, but Mayday is, of course, at this point, she's completely running on fumes. And she decides to assume that if she overloads him, it'll help defeat him, but at what cost? Question mark. Shortly thereafter, that's exactly what she does, and Franklin shows up and offers his hand of help. Appears that Nova is in way over his head on his deal, and so they've split up the various heroes, and he offers help. So Funny Face thinks that this plan's going along swimmingly, but Crazy 8 makes it clear that they are in no match for the combined efforts of the Fantastic Five, Avengers, and Mayday. The big giant splash page when they show up, and wisely, Crazy 8 decides that it's better to surrender and not try to run, like what Funny Face wanted it to do. The day is, of course, saved. JJJ still can't think about how Spider-Girl is related to Spider-Man, because that's his blind spot. And Mayday slinks off to head home when suddenly her powers hit the fritz. And this is where normally I'd be like, da da da, but that's the end of the issue.
Yes, and we don't need that here. This is traumatic, okay?
It is a very traumatic.
Have some respect.
No, it's a cliffhanger. So
I know.
I think cliffhanger, that's the first thing that pops in my head. So, Kelly, what'd you think of this issue?
All right, so I mean, obviously, I really enjoyed this issue. I did have a little rant here about JJ. My thing is like the argument itself is very realistic, especially with someone like JJ, because he is a teenage boy, and what teenage boy wouldn't, go, oh yeah, I really like this girl, she's very pretty, I'm dating her, but high school dating, he just doesn't get it, and then that was the whole. Like that, it's a really good line. Like the only thing you're gonna be touching is the only thing that's gonna get touched is your
ego.
What was it?
Yeah.
Ego, yeah, upside your head or something.
Yes.
And it's she didn't. The only thing that I think bugged me, and it's she even comes off later and she's like, yeah, I guess I was overreacting. I'm like trying to pick something with him, but I don't think she overreacted at all.
No.
That's my thing. I really think that she had nothing to apologize or feel bad about. All she did was she copped an attitude, but he started it, and all she did was ask him to explain himself, which he couldn't do.
Yeah, and he's so oblivious because he's a teenage boy.
Yeah.
That it's just he has no concept of.
Yeah. But it's also, I realize too, this is kind of the times, and so that kind of assertive attitude that she gives off, because what is not considered, I guess, the most, especially back then, that would have been quote unquote attitude, versus no, she's literally standing up for her. WTF, dude? Why do you think everything is about you? To quote Carly Simon, you're so vain.
You think the song is about you?
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where you go back and reread it, and you're like, she really wasn't over the line there at all to me. But I'm also pro people having agency over themselves, and that's something that unfortunately with Spider-Girl we will see later on, not with anything by Tom and Ron and co, but with some Spider-Verse stuff, and after we will kind of see where she doesn't really have agency over herself, and then Mike Costa makes her make sandwiches, and I will forever be angry. Anyway,
Oh no.
yeah, sorry. But yeah, also the Catch the Flag game, Catch the Pokemon card game with the Savage Six is a lot of fun. And I do have to mention Dragon King, everyone's favorite. He's finally gotten past the rampaging over schools, although he will revert back to rampaging the school and living in the basement for reasons. But he finally is out there and he's doing something and he's actually very formidable. So that's what you get when you apply yourself and actually think straight instead of just being angry. See,
Congratulations, Hack Mutter.
Yay! He's done it. So I do like that. And then too, my heart goes out to her about like getting knocked around and then losing her powers, because like she gave it her all and completely depleted herself and exhausted herself, and she was doing really, really good all on her own. And of course I'm very, very glad that Psylord and the Avengers come and help her save the day when she gets zapped. But it sucks. I kind of equate it to, and we'll talk about it in the next issue, where she has a concussion. As someone who has suffered quite a few concussions in my life, it's never fun. And it does kind of make you feel wonky, and I think that that's probably, I've always, like, my headcanon has always been that's part of it, so it sucks. My heart goes out to her, because this is not fun. She really almost was there to like really prove herself, and maybe Nova would like stop being a meanie. I was about to say something else.
I call them a jackwagon.
Jackwagon? Okay. Jackwagon's good. I was about to use
profanity. Yeah, no.
Yeah. He's a Richard. No. Which he is a Richard. See, here you go. I can call him Dick, and it still works, because that's what I was doing. It's his name. It's fine.
That's his name. Yeah.
But yeah, so
he has a very apt name.
He is a Richard. So it's, yeah, that's but she has good friends, and of course I know that it's because Jameson called everybody, but still.
No.
That's my take on this issue. So how do you feel?
I love the structure of this issue. The entire thing is an homage to the annual #1 of ASM, which is the Sinister Six first appearance. It's also the first time that Peter also lost his powers for a brief time. So the splash pages are absolutely exceptional. Again, homaging the original Six story. I love the new hair. I know this is a random note for a dude, but I really this is the hairstyle that May sported when I started reading regularly. Mm-hmm. So like I get a little nostalgic when I'm like, oh, this is the debut of the hair. I think this is the hair that would last the longest. She would have a makeover She'll have a makeover later on when Ron takes over and kind of starts making things his own.
The shag pixie, yeah. This Bob is cute, but to me personally, I will always like the shaggy pixie cut, because I think that that's more May, because it's something that she even says in here. She doesn't feel very comfortable in this hairstyle because her mom kind of made her get it with her mom's hairstylist, and this, of course, back when her mom is still editing the fashion magazine. So this was probably a very, very expensive, very nice New York City hairstylist, and this was all the rage, and this was very, very trendy and cute. But the thing I love about May is she's not all, as much as she is trendy, her style is very like every girl. It's never bombastic like April or MJ. It's very chill, and so I kind of always like the shag pixie, because it shows off her character, like her spunkiness, without really, because this you can kind of feel, especially this issue, she doesn't feel too sure of herself, and that's what happens when you don't have a great haircut. Right. So,
or a haircut that doesn't fit you.
Yeah.
It might be a great haircut, but it just doesn't fit you. And you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, she does bring that up, but I don't know. I just felt nostalgic for it. Love the story. The Pokemon reference obviously kind of made me chuckle because I'm like, oh, 2000.
The movie was coming out.
Yeah, I know. The movie was coming out. I remember Pokemon, the first movie.
The first movie.
And then Pokemon 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I saw an ad in one of these issues, I can't remember which one, for Godzilla 2000. And I was like, oh, how apropos, because we just had Godzilla versus Kong.
Hey,
so, there you go.
Godzilla deserved his nap, and how dare the monkey?
He just wanted a nap. He just wants to be left alone.
Yeah, like it's the people. The people suck. This is why Godzilla rules.
Yes. Oh, I remember watching those classic Japanese with the English dub, and they weren't ever on time, and it was always like, Godzilla!
No, Gajira, yes. All right,
yeah.
So this is
okay.
Me now. Dun dun dun. Spider Girl 26. I love how I wrote Lost Powers. Do you have the actual title of the issue?
Yes. Un momento. Let me flip to it.
Yes, thank you.
The actual. Oh. Maybe. All right.
Okay.
It is. Of course, it's not cooperating. Passages.
Passages. Okay.
Yes, that is the name of the title.
Sounds like a rehab. Sorry. It is very apropos.
As you will explain and reference here momentarily. I'm just going to
yes.
With the issue.
So, yes, please. All right. Spider-Girl 26, Passages. Cover date is November 2000. The sale date is September 13th, 2000. And May is getting checked out at the doctor, and other than a mild concussion, he gives her a good bill of health, but May still feels like something has to be wrong because she doesn't feel quite right. She's lost her powers thanks to last issue, and Peter, May, and MJ all discuss going to Big Brain / Reed Richards to get a second opinion that might, because he might actually know something that's going on with May. But May is really creeped out by the robot body, and my little rant here is like, the new robot body does look like a gray alien, and I'm not into those little gray aliens either, so I get it. Like, it is creepy. It's like a horror. It's a horror movie.
It's like a gray alien Doombot of all people to build a Doombot. Read what? Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No. It's just I understand where she's coming from. Obviously MJ gets on to her though because it does kind of come off a little crass. About how he can't help it, although he could have made a better body. Okay. It's Reed Richards. But MJ and May talk about how she really feels about not having her powers because Peter does seem to be taking it a bit hard. It's a total 180 from the beginning of the series and in What If here, because he really does seem to be taking it really hard, and we'll find out later why. But May loves being Spider-Girl, but she never really planned a career in it. Right here, she says she wants to be a coach or teach phys ed, physical education, and I think later on we'll see where she brings back up teaching, but I think it's in science. So it's really nice to see that here. But we cut to Normie in therapy at the Psychiatric Institute. Normie feels like happiness was never an option for him because he is an Osborn, and as a goblin, there is no happiness. So Dr. Lorch reminds Normie how much Foggy and Liz, went through great lengths to separate Normie from his grandfather's influence and help him get the best care possible and the best help. Normie admits that being the goblin only brings pain and misery, and he assumed it would kill him like it did his father and grandfather. May is we cut back to May, and she's back at school, and she heads to the cafeteria with Davida. They see JJ talking with Courtney and make wild accusations, even though May doesn't really believe them. But Brad and Moose come over. Moose sees it and gets really bummed out. Heather then sees May and Brad talking, and she's jealous, so she trips and throws her lunch tray on May. May is upset that she didn't have her her spider senses to warn her about this kind of stuff, and goes to change while everyone fawns over Nova flying outside. At the police headquarters, Pete is getting ready to go to lunch to meet MJ, and Phil is walking out with him as he's going to meet Mary. And they're chatting about May's power down. Phil daydreams about a world without Spider-Girl where he thinks because she's not there, that means he's the greatest superhero ever. So that's great for him. Phil then meets Mary for lunch at Nilsson and Associates. And Phil notices a slightly older looking intern with brown hair who looks very familiar to him. Mary says that his name is Riley. Then we cut back to Normie. Yeah, then we cut back to Normie, still in his counseling session. This is a long counseling session. Like, I just want to throw that out there.
Well, there's a lot to unpack, so that's why.
It's true. But Normie is back at the counseling Normie is at the counseling session, and he is screaming about how Spider-Girl emasculated him. Oh boy. And this therapist is not putting up with it at all, which good for her. And basically makes Normie admit that, he doesn't really have a good reason for his vendetta against Spider-Girl because it's not his war. But of course he's still in this whole, this is my destiny. It started with my grandfather and Spider-Man, and so he has to continue it. Then we cut to MJ and Peter are in an antique shop for their lunch date and have a conversation about Peter putting on his webs again, because that's what he's been thinking about. If May can't go out there and be Spider-Girl, then maybe he needs to come back and be Spider-Man. MJ reminds him that he can't be the same web-slinger that he used to be after the trauma he suffered. And I've always taken that to mean not just him losing the leg, but also just probably the PTSD from that situation. And, reminds him that he has nothing to prove to anybody about being Spider-Girl or Spider-Man. Wow. But she does love him and will support him in whatever he chooses. So we go to a basketball game that May is playing, and some high school kids are holding up the "Who is Dark Devil" sign. Thanks, high school kids. Thanks
for the foreshadowing for our next episode, high school kids.
Thank you. And in the stands of the basketball, wow. If anybody needs to know, it's been a week for me. But basketball game, and May is finally not holding herself back while she's playing, and she's having a lot of fun not having to hold herself back. Though without her powers, she does have a lot of mishaps and seems to be a lot clumsier. In the game, Midtown still wins 82-71. Where is y'all's defense? Because that just feels like nobody was tackling, not tackling, but nobody was pushing anybody away from the basket.
You don't even see that in WNBA. I mean, they play defense.
I don't understand. See, that's my thing. As a forward, I was I played defense, and I
don't know.
It's a bad game. Anyway, and JJ goes to meet May to try to squash the rumors about Courtney. May brushes it off, and Moose gets mad. I mean, also JJ, I think, said something kind of chauvinistic there too, but I didn't write it down. Normie is.
He says, "I got wind of some." Quote: "I got wind of some pretty weird rumors about me and that Duran girl. And I want to make sure you and I are still cool."
Oh, okay, then that's not that bad. I thought there was something else. No, that's about right during for a 14, 15-year-old boy. That's normal. No, I thought there was something else where he complimented her and it was cringe. Or that's just JJ.
He said, "Hey, pretty lady, talk about slamming heat. This was your night. Any chance we can celebrate over a Super Sunday?" Man, you're trying so hard to be smooth.
That sounded. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we cut back to Normie, who is still in therapy. Again, his therapist is not taking this whole "woe is me, if this be my destiny" crap. She offers to help him turn his life around and have his, and reminds him that he has his whole life ahead of him. He's only really made minor misdemeanors, and that's true. Like, nothing he's done beyond like breaking and entering, and because I don't believe that Pete and MJ have ever filed charges against him. So all he's ever really done has been like breaking and entering and like mischief and some property destruction. These are all very minor misdemeanors that can be handled. So she tries to remind him of that, and he actually looks hopeful because he's figured out a plan. We'll figure out what that plan is later. So May puts on her suit and her web shooters and really isn't sure why she's doing this, but she feels like she has to test herself out because she's not really ready to accept defeat when it comes to quitting Spider-Girl. She tries to web swing and it goes about as expected. She's kind of stranded hanging on by a web thread when Dark Devil comes back to put her up. Dark Devil kind of rails into her about taking this seriously and to stop clowning around. To quote Dark Devil, "grow up or get out." So May gets back into her civvies and heads home. We cut to Dr. Lorch's office and find her tied up, of course. And she tells her aide that they need to warn Spider-Girl because Normie is out for her and doesn't plan to end this fight until one of them is dead. And that is the end of this issue.
Yes. And the following week after this issue came out, Dark Devil #1 came out. So we were timing this absolutely perfect. So
I mean, I did my best.
Except for my fault. I know. My bad. It's my fault.
Well,
right,
no, I mean, it is hard to try and do the side books in tandem just because we also want to try and keep those together for story purposes. So
yes.
But yeah, so we do need your opinions before we go on to 27 for 26.
Yes.
And then I need to give my opinions, but I'm waiting on you.
Sorry. So this is the first appearance of Riley as Riley. Very cool.
Well, we don't know that yet. And technically, they're trying to play off because the thing is we don't know if that's his last name or his first name. We just know his name's Riley.
Yeah. So the person called Riley. Very cool. I'm excited. I love
his hair is darker here.
Yeah, I know. It is darker here. I don't understand why. Anyway, I loved how Normie is conflicted with the question of if he enjoyed his time being with the Goblin. I mean, why does he hate May? It's kind of like it reminded me a little bit of how when Otto Octavius saves Peter Parker during the Clone Saga, he kind of asks himself the existential question, who am I without my enemy? And he is so traumatized by the death of his mother that he's now wrapped his entire identity, his entire existence in this war between his godparents and his own parents and grandparents, and so he's just so consumed with that. It's interesting to see this play out over this issue, and obviously it's going to be a big thing in next issue. But in terms of the slice of life stuff, the Courtney JJ situation is very typical. I really liked watching May powerless play basketball. I think it's really great. I also love the cover. I love the use of "Is this the end of Spider-Girl?" ? With the
Well, I mean, wasn't the book kind of on the chopping block here too?
Well, interestingly,
getting close to it.
Yes, I think this was another example where it looks like it wasn't going to be solicited, but they actually reference in the letters page of 24.
Okay, yeah.
That 27 was going to be the end of the Goblin War. So I think at one point, I think this was going to be one of those points where they're going to end the series, and it got extended because the sales never went down.
Well, They never went down. They stayed consistent, and then it wound up just being an issue with the way Marvel was handling their sales at the time. I feel like now they. I would hope that it would be different because consistent sales generally shows a consistent audience, and that's just marketing 101.
Yeah, I mean, in the direct market, how it is now, to have a consistent, stable audience for titles outside of like your core titles like Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man, Captain America, you don't see the stability there, and especially a spin-off title like Spider-Girl to have such
a spin-off title not in the main universe either.
Yeah, as an alternate, you're right. As an alternate universe title, that's not like a big imprint like Ultimate Spider-Man was. Yeah.
See, I also have a question though. Had MC2 and Spider-Girl not been as successful as it was during this time, would we have ever seen Ultimate?
Maybe. However,
yeah,
I think the failure of the Spider-Man reboot contributed to the success of Ultimate because they made it its own story. Now, if you talk to people that were on the internets like our good friend JR or George Berryman, the guys that were running Hero Realm at the time, there was a lot of pushback because there was belief that they were going to do this hard reboot and the Ultimate Universe was going to replace the 616.
I mean, I remember those rumors, and I still was not, I'll be 10 on issue 27. So I was 9 years old, and I remember going into the comic book shop and overhearing that. I remember distinctly people talking about this is going to happen, and obviously it didn't happen, but I feel like, and that's also probably why, like, I think that's why I wasn't so scared of when DC did it with New 52 and stuff, but at the same time, then we realized what that was going to be and how that doesn't quite work, and
they're still trying to fix that mess.
Yeah, so, that's, one good thing is don't do that. But I'm just saying in general of, like, the fact that this seems like, at least for the 90s, I mean, this was a risk for Marvel to do at the time and where Marvel was, and I still think it paid off, but, Marvel likes to... Well, I think the issue is Marvel is afraid of Spider-Girl fans because they're like, we don't know how to make y'all happy.
There was a day when there was legendary stories that were being sent forth about the Spider-Girl fandom rising up in an uprising. Don't know why I just brought out Patrick Stewart.
I mean, that was Patrick Stewart?
That was an attempt to be Patrick Stewart.
Okay. All right. But anyway, to get back to this, I forgot May originally wanted to be a coach. Like I said, I remember her saying something later about wanting to be a teacher too, but I thought it was more like an actual teacher. Which no offense to any physical education teachers out there, but in the state of Georgia, you can just have a high school degree and be a high school coach. So.
Oh, no.
I don't like it. Anyway.
Yeah, in Texas, you've got to have a 4-year degree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a private school versus public school, but in private school you could totally just do that. And so weird, not cool. But it is neat to see just kind of how she still wants to be in some kind of service role, if that makes sense. Like her career ideas have always been to help people. I do love Normie's story and Peter's story here because Pete feels like he still has a responsibility to be Spider-Man, especially if May can't be. And it's a lot like Phil's I can still be a hero thing. It doesn't matter how old I am. I can do this, even though he really can't, versus Peter knows what this really entails, and, he knows what the risks are, and he's still willing to go out there and do that if he needs to, but at the same time, we also know that there's still that level of, like, he kind of wants to relive his glory days a little bit, but it's a different tone than the way Phil has it. And then Normie, you know, Normie knows that this has to end, and like I said last episode, he's always assumed he's going to die as the Goblin, like his father and his father before him. Like this to him feels like his divine right, which is very dark and twisted, but he's not mentally in a good place. And it's also, he's thinking. It's also the thinking of someone who doesn't know how to live outside of the Goblin Shadow on his own. And as much as like Liz and Foggy did everything they could to get him to feel like he could and he could survive it, they never really reached in him because he always just felt like he felt, like I said, like he felt like, if this be my destiny. Which...
Yeah, well, and it certainly didn't help that you had a grandfather that was thought dead, brought back to life.
Think about this though. So let's see. He's 5 years here. He's basically a 5-year-old, and we did see him in the 616 about 5-6 years old when May was born. And then 2 years after that, going by like the timeline that we've learned so far, about 2 years after that is when Norman died again. So this isn't like, when we think back on this, we might think back on like all of the stories that Norman had, influence over Normie. But that's over, because now in the comics he's about 10, 11 years old. Sometimes they push it up to 12, but you know what I mean? Like, he's about 10 years old here. And so the thing is that he's had that, we're thinking of it almost like he is 10 years old and he's had that many years he's had like 4 years. This is only 2. Yeah. So he was like 7. And this is also with Liz winding up marrying Foggy, and I don't see Foggy really wanting Norman around his stepson. So no. There's a different situation here. I don't think Norman really was able to get into him, but at the same time, this is showing you how manipulative Norman Osborn really is, because it only took him 2 years in whatever limited capacity he had to fully inflict this is your divine right. Yes, but exactly. in Normie's mind, it's twisted to it's my divine right to die.
Yeah.
Which is very emo of him.
Very. One other thing I wanted to mention, because I just noticed this literally right before we recorded. If you're getting the floppies and you're reading these along, you'll see these milk ads, and they actually did do the contest winner on the back cover of issue 26. So I didn't even notice that until literally right before we recorded. So I wanted to make mention of that. Also, another year 2000 thing, Spider-Man 64 or Spider-Man PS1, which was the greatest Spider-Man game up until Spider-Man PS4.
We're on a PS5 now.
I know. I know. So we are on the main event of the episode.
Yes. All right. So Spider-Girl 27. It has a cover date of December 2000, with October 11th, 2000 being the sale date. And its title is, the story title is In-Game. That name seems to haunt the Marvel Comics, doesn't it? You know what, though? You know what? It means greatness. It means amazingness, because this is, just a preface before I do the breakdown, this is one of my, like, whenever somebody says, what comic should I read? What's the greatest comic story of all time? This is always in my top 10. A lot of Spider-Girl stories are, but this is always in my top 10. This is something that if I had unlimited funds and could find a really good Goblin costume and a really good actor for Normie, I would want to do the entire, like, just like a one-play act of this entire, like, Normie and May's discussion here. I I really think that it would pop, like, it would be something very, it would translate very well in other mediums, the way it's written. Um, I love 27. Anyway, let's start with this breakdown. So, we start off where Normie has May tied up and is slapping her around. This is the first time he's fighting her without his mask, and I do want to note that. Normie goes on about how he has this great plan of ending the Spider-Goblin War, advising May that since they are currently the only children of the Goblin and Spiders, and I'm put currently there because we know what happens later, the only children of the Goblin and Spiders, they can end this war today as soon as someone dies. May wishes she took him more seriously before this, because he is being a total, she calls him something else. I'm calling him a Looney Tune crazy pants. She called him a psychopath, which he's acting crazy, but there's a method to his madness. So flashback to May being on her computer as her parents are talking to her about Normie breaking out of the mental institution. The line, "Who runs these places, Adam Sandler or Jim Carrey," is a line that is just ageless. Still holds up today. It's great. It really is, though. Like, seriously.
God, I can just see like him being the security guard and doing full-on cable guy in 1990s Jim Carrey. Oh,
I was thinking more like him acting like the Sonic guy. That most recent role.
Robotnik?
Yeah, yes. Jim Carrey doing his Robotnik. Or Adam Sandler doing the that Neighborhood Watch guy from the Netflix movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, May is pretty flippant about Normie, feeling like she can handle him and he's kind of just a joke. Mary Jane reminds her that the last time she fought him, she had spider powers. This time she doesn't. So it's a big difference. Peter and MJ continue their conversation over this outside May's room in the hallway. Peter's pretty much designated him as too much grandfather in him, like has too much Norman in him, and he's just a goblin, he's just an Osborn. But Mary Jane has a hard time believing that Normie would really try to hurt May, because this is a kid they've watched grow up, that this is their godson, according to 616, and I assume here too. Back at the warehouse, May has a black eye, and Normie is roughing her up, and May's trying to tell Normie that the fight is not with them, and he's really got to get over that. But he is still on his Goblin Legacy BS, and he decides he's not going to pull an elaborate trap and give her time to escape. He's just going to go for the throat, and she brings in his knife. We cut to the school, and we see that Courtney and JJ are on the bleachers during morning football practice, as Moose is tackling the dummy really hard. Like, he is just taking all of his aggression out on this tackling dummy. Brad, in his own way, tries to calm Moose down, but it doesn't help because it's Brad. At the warehouse, Normie is upset that May was so easy to capture on her walk to school. And May brings up, Normie's mom, and Normie is not too keen on talking about that. Or talking about how this isn't what she wanted for him, and he smacks May around some more. At school, Brad talks to Davida about how JJ needs his butt kicked, and Davida reminds him that he doesn't own May, and JJ didn't steal May from him, so if he likes May, he needs to act on it. Jimmy overhears this, and looks quite menacingly. Then we cut back to Normie, who is getting impatient, and from what it sounds like, probably hungry, as he's waiting for May to break out of the bonds and fight him to death. Normie tries to twist his grandfather's motives, and May quickly reminds him that that is not what happened. And he kind of basically admits by getting mad at the minor details. And he goes back to his point of someone has to die for this to be over. In Midtown High, Jimmy goes to Moose and tells him that if he likes Courtney, he shouldn't go after JJ. And, really there needs to be a peace branch here. Moose doesn't believe Jimmy is looking out for him and goes to talk to JJ. Then we cut to Phil putting on his golden goblin suit, and Peter trying to tell him that he might not be the best, he might not be the most equipped to go after Normie right now, but Phil is just like, this is his destiny. He's got to prove that he is the greatest goblin ever. As he's on his way to find Normie, Nova shows up and gives him a lot of trouble. And Nova also gives a dig at Spider-Girl not being legitimate, and has forever sealed his fate as being the biggest jerk #1 for me, because he is a total Richard. And Mary Jane is going over family photos and is really upset Normie turned out like this, and is wondering what went wrong. That would be Norman Osborn is what went wrong.
Yes.
At the warehouse, May reminds Normie that they're not puppets and they can make their own choices. And Normie is very, Normie knows it, but he doesn't want to admit it. And then May reminds him that, Peter and Harry were friends, and it really gets to Normie. He starts to tear up, but he's not going to admit this, and so he winds up going into a dramatic fit again because he wants a fight. He wants a fight to the death. So he continues to spit his grandfather's rhetoric while he wields a knife looking like an insane psychopath, and May reminds him that she could have just let him get hit by the truck in What If 105, but she didn't. She couldn't. So she's not going to fight him to the death. Normie admits May should have let him get hit and begs her to escape. May starts to realize that he's trying to set it up so she kills him in a knife, trying to fight the knife. And, it gets pretty heavy from there. Meanwhile, at the school, Moose confronts JJ, but instead of wanting to start something with JJ, Moose admits that while he is upset to see JJ with Courtney, if he's helping comfort her during, them getting over their kidnapping, he'll stand aside, but basically he doesn't want her to hurt Courtney. We cut back to the warehouse, and Normie is holding the knife above his head, looking like he's about to stab May, but really he's trying to scare her into fighting back, but in the end, Normie still couldn't bring himself to stab her. He feels like a total failure, and he can't bring himself to kill her or himself. May, who is now finally freed from the chair, comforts Normie, telling him that if he can end the Parker-Osborn War, then who knows what he can accomplish. And that is the end of this episode, or issue. Wow. Words.
As I mute it, sorry. No, this is an incredible issue. The one of the lines as I'm sitting there, following along in the recap. I like to do this so everybody knows I'm reading it. One of the things that I missed in my notes is when May brings up Liz.
Mm-hmm.
He goes. She's not a real Osborn, and that is a direct line
from Norman.
From Norman in Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was 250 when he came back and made his grand re-entrance as Norman Osborn.
Well, if you noticed, anytime she brought up his parents, he would calm down a bit and sounded very reasonable, very, normal. But then because of the fact that basically she's kind of killing his need to fight, because he's not like... The thing with Normie is he's not crazy. He's not... He still thinks logically, and he's still got a lot of sense in him. The issue is that he just really ultimately feels like his main delusion is... He is destined to do this. This is the fate of the Osborns. And it literally, it almost comes off like, even if it was just a short amount of time, he was groomed by Norman for this. So now he feels like he has to do this. And it's kind of the power of predatory men, even though this is not like in that way at all. It's still that vein. It's still that situation, and that's literally it. He has been groomed to do this, and he doesn't know how to get out of it. Yeah. As much as he knows he wants to. And so he thinks in that regard, for him to end this and stop this, he has to die.
Yeah, because I think there's enough Harry in him. Because let's face it, when Harry went through his final psychosis before his death in Spec 200, I mean, you read that arc with J.M.D. Mateus. Harry's a very conflicted villain. He is torn between the ghost that haunts him, which is his father, and what he feels like is his birthright and his destiny.
I'll kind of go off on that too. I mean, at the same time, this is also another thing about Norman, who has abused Harry, and and even in relation, he's abused Normie. Yeah. And these are the things, though, is like these are the conflicts as a child with an abusive parent or grandparent, any kind of
great grandparent, because it was the same way with Norman too.
Yeah, well, yeah, with Virgil. Right,
yep.
That was his dad's name. But the thing is too, in this regard, there is a predatory power play here with Norman, and Norman destined to do this. And this is kind of how people. This is honestly probably a perfect analogy on abuse victims, when people are like, well, why can't they get out of it? They're literally like brainwash. I mean, not even brainwashed. This is learned behavior. They don't know anything. Yeah, and I mean, and obviously, like, that can wind up being like learned later in life and stuff like that. But it's because there's this power struggle. They don't see through the woods. Essentially, they are stuck in it, and that's kind of what's going on here with Normie. Is Normie sees through the woods, but he doesn't. There's a fear of the unknown, of getting out of it. Like, if that's the case, then what does my life mean? Because even though my grandfather only had this short time with me, this is the impact that he's had on my life.
Yeah, because, I mean, Harry died. We know that now. It's air quotes. But Harry died when he was so young. I mean, he was basically a 3-year-old.
And he watched it, too. That's the thing, too. He watched it. So as a
3-year-old,
I mean, this kid I'm sure has some kind of complex. Like, I mean, it's Normie, it's an Osborn. He's gonna have a complex, but you know, it's rough. And so this issue really does bring that home. That he has the logic about him. He knows that this is. He knows that this isn't right. He doesn't want to hurt May. He doesn't have hatred towards her.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know what else he's supposed to do. I mean, and that's one of the things, too. Like, previously, in other fights, again, fights where he kept his mask on, he was after Peter to kill him. He didn't really want to fight May unless he had to. But here, because, again, I think a large part of it's just he felt a little bit of the emasculation there. But, I think he realized, okay, if I die by her hands, then that's, they'll end it.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, too, he was probably in a suicidal state.
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally, I mean, that's kind of been my headcanon. He's always known, like, again, like he said to the therapist. Yeah. I figured I'd die as a goblin. Like, I figured I'd die from this. Like my father and his father before him.
Yeah.
That's the situation. Like, that's the thing. That's literally what he's been doing this whole time, has been trying to get himself killed.
Yeah. I'm not going to snap on your notes. Just to finish mine out, and then I'm going to let you.
Sorry.
Go. No. This is really great discussion. This has been at least reprinted one more time. It's reprinted in issue 100, and it's done for very good reason. This is arguably of the first 2.5 years of Spider-Girl.
It was also redrawn in Amazing Spider-Girl, where April gets to watch it with her eyes.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to this too
Hmm.
throughout the series. But this is the best climax to the long-term storytelling being told through the series thus far. It's truly a highlight to behold. The layers of storytelling here are amazing. Normie is utterly trapped by feeling that he has to kill the spider, and there's a sense of both. In the case of Harry and Normie, there's this sense of guilt and responsibility. It's a twist on the classic Peter Parker sense of guilt. He knows
Well,
May deep down is a good person, but
it,
this is
it's a
where I feel
it's a
like the
it's a twist, but it's a twist on it's their mental state from being
yeah.
under a like a legitimate sociopath that is Norman Osborn before he becomes a psychopath with the Goblin serum.
Yeah, like Norman. Okay, Norman would have been abusive towards Harry without the Goblin serum
Because
because that's what Norman was
he's
taught.
well, no, it's also because he's a sociopath. I mean, literally, if we go back to
Yeah,
what was it, the Osborn journals, where they go through the flashback and he's literally beating the dog.
yeah,
Psychopaths do this. Like this is literally the start of a serial killer. Period.
yeah. He'd have been a mob boss. He'd have been a he'd have been a awful person. That's why it's really interesting to see in the current books this Norman Osborn who's been cleansed of his sins and how he just is so desperate to
There's
be
a
a good
twist.
dad.
There's gonna be a twist there. I
Oh,
don't
it's
believe
definitely going to be a
it's
twist.
not genuine. I'm sorry, it's not genuine, and I'm waiting for it so I can call it out.
Yes. So again, there's that element of Harry that's inside Normie, and it kind of comes through in this issue. May feels a lot like MJ in that aforementioned Spectacular 200.
In Time Bomb.
Yeah, and Time
Yeah.
Bomb, and all these times where she tries to reason with people that she loves and cares about, because there was obviously a relationship between the two.
Of gummy bears
Right.
past, and
Of Gummy Bears Past.
I should have bought gummy bears today. Darn it.
I almost did. I didn't.
Ah.
But trying to reason with his better side. So, like, seeing him overcome these demons is just equally heartbreaking and inspiring. And look, May is a delight, and this powerless arc is worth it just for this issue alone.
Oh yeah.
Because it brings a greater power to the story. Where, as Venkman mentioned, a powerless May at the hands of a deranged Normie who keeps wanting her to escape and fight him, but she literally can't. This is the one time she can't overcome that.
No,
That's
and he does. And here's the thing: Normie doesn't even realize this either. He doesn't know she doesn't have powers, and that's something that he keeps bringing up. He's like, "Why was it so easy? Why are you just letting me do this? Like, why aren't you fighting me? Why aren't you getting away? Why aren't you playing along like I wanted you to?" But if you notice, where the way he acted with MJ prior to that, where he kind of calls back on that, like just play along with me. This isn't that. This is still some, there's some slight fun in it. Like this is he doesn't ever. The way he spoke to MJ is a different tone than the way he speaks to May here, because it's more. He's just like, come on, do it. Like it's not a. He's not begging her. He's just really like. It's almost like he's tired of this game.
Well, and it too.
You
bring it up too. Normie in the Mask, the power of the mask,
and he's not in the mask this time. This is Normie fighting. This is not the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That's I really love this, and and like Vinkman says, the last issue where she's hugging him and comforting him because he's having a mental breakdown there, but it's an emotional breakdown, because mentally I think he's very sane. It's just it's his line of thinking, and again, like I said, this is not a mentally unstable thought. This is a abuse victim thought, and he wasn't abused like his father was.
No.
But just from the little psychological abuse Norman was giving him when Norman was alive, this is what this has turned into. and that's kind of the power of that situation. Again, I love this issue. I love this issue. It's drama. It has heart. I love the side story with Moose being a good person and caring about me enough to let her go if he has to. Just because Moose seems to be the most emotionally mature character in their high school. I like seeing Normie again struggle with his family troubles and what it means to be destined versus forging your own path. And again, if I could have this made into a Spider-Girl movie, this is what I'd want. Because, this has May's true strength has always been her power of mediation, essentially, and being able to hear somebody out and making that judgment call and helping them. She doesn't turn people away. She doesn't close people off. She really does listen to them and wants to redeem them. It's never been about avenging anything or revenge or any, that's one of the differences between Spider and Girl. She doesn't have that guilt and that fear that, if somebody walks away, they're just always going to be this bad person because that's what I've known. She knows hope. She knows redemption, and that's what she wants to give to people. And, we always have to try, we always need to try that in our lives, to be a little bit kinder and give people, if they really do deserve the chance, they should be allowed said chance. But at the same time, they do also have to earn that chance. And like here, Normie clearly earns it. But the goal here was never to get into a fight. She didn't want to fight him in the first place. She never did. She just wanted him to stop because he's being crazy. And, that's kind of this situation. That's really been May's strength, is she's just not... I call her a powerhouse and a brawler because she can fight, she can throw down, but that's not necessarily her personality. And
at this point, like with Normie and, or not Normie, Franklin and the FF and even the Avengers, when we had the hostage situation in 25 2 issues ago, the first thing that comes out of Normie's mouth is, if you had been there, May, that hostage situation probably would have went better because you would have been able to mediate better. So people are starting to see that element of Spider-Girl even in universe, and that's really, really cool. And there's a line that DeFalco has said multiple times about Spider-Girl.
Kelly, I think, mentions it.
Doesn't Kelly says a line that has always stuck with me was the one about how when Peter doesn't act, people die, but when May acts, people live, and that really sums up a whole lot of her character. And and basically that's exactly what Tom DeFalco said. Mayday is Spider-Girl because somebody lived. Peter is Spider-Man because somebody died.
Yeah.
And even when you see that mugger that goes off, Peter Parker's first instinct is to go after that person and go beat them up for no reason, when clearly they've had a change of heart and this career change. And thinking, I'm in the wrong line of work. May automatically assumes.
May's just like, okay, he seems scared, so that's good enough for me. Maybe he won't do it again. And I get where Peter's coming from, but it's because there is a naivety there, especially early on. And I think, if she was to do that later in her career, it might be a tad bit different. But too, her spider sense can kind of figure this out a little bit. We kind of realize that because she can kind of sense their weak points and where to hit and what to do. So she definitely has that. It's kind of the Aunt May intuition. She does have that intuition on who's a good person and who's not. And once she learns to trust her gut, this is one of the reasons why May is such to me, an iconic character and is such a unique character and can't really be compared with other Spider women and girls, because her situation is about, preventing something. It's about just keeping the faith and saving hope and all that fun. It's a positive, happy spin. Also, I do want to say too, like, Normie is wielding that knife in her face the entire time, and she does not flinch once. He punches the crap out of her, and her eye is horrible. And I did that makeup, and I remember how everyone got upset about that makeup. Last month of Mayday, everyone was very upset and uncomfortable. And she never once flinched. She let him hit her. She didn't, it doesn't look like she ever tensed up or anything. She just let him go. And it is rough. It's hard watching him do that. And I'm sure, later on, like, he feels horrible about it.
Yeah.
But,
my headcanon always has, like, that awkward conversation. Be like, so that time that I struck you, I'm really sorry. Like, I could see Normie being super apologetic, like, later on.
I could see him be disgusted with himself for doing it, but, like, at the same time, again, he's desperate here. Like, he is on the verge. Like, when you are that suicidal like that, but even then, he's still not really. He's still looking for help. He still wants to be saved, and this is something deep down I don't even think he's realizing. So this is his call to help, and he's just in that. He's in a very distressed mindset, so he doesn't quite. Not that it makes it better. It's just he feels like the ends are going to justify the means here when he dies, because he's trying to get her to fight back and hurt him. So he doesn't really intend of that, but I love the fact that, like, she does not flinch once with him. And then again, now we get to see him become one of the best allies a superhero could have. And I'm happy about his redemption arc, but I love this episode, this issue so much. I really, really wish that I could get something. Like, if they were ever to do anything with Spider-Girl, I would want it to be this issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think the next Spider-Girl episode, we're going to be almost wrapping up Volume 2.
Yeah.
So,
but when we come back, we should have because we should have Volume 3. Because the next Friday episode is going to be the 23rd, so we will have Volume 3.
I may not have that in my hand yet, but people hopefully have that, starting to have that in their hands. So,
I mean, I should, if Amazon gives it to me in time. But anyway,
it's Amazon, so you never know.
Never know.
So let's move on to emails. We got an email.
We do. For now, okay. Oh, okay, that's you. Because I was like, what do you have something about Dark Devil? And it was like, you're just talking about the perfect timing. Yeah, because next episode, once again, Tuesday, Dark Devil Mini. Woot. Tuesday.
I'm so excited. Y'all have no idea. So, all right. So we got an email from Vinkman himself.
Yep.
He sent us an email. And he says, hello, Kelly and Zach. A few weeks ago, you asked everyone to submit their craziest, silliest fan canon theories about Spider-Girl. I really don't want to let you both down, but the only fan canon that he has is that the original Spider-Man continuity ends in 1998 with the final chapter and switches over to the MC2 universe because Spider-Girl feels like the natural continuation of the stories and characters that we all know and love. Plus, it's a heck of a lot better than most of the Spider-Man stories we've gotten since the Mackie Byrne reboot in 99. But there is nothing really silly, quote-unquote, about that, so I don't feel the need to write in about it. However, when reading Spider-Girl number 20, we see Normie Osborn sitting on what turns out to be a fake beach, drinking some sort of tropical drink. Supposedly, Normie is about 19 when this story takes place, so he's still too young to be having alcohol. That begs the question, what is he drinking? For some reason, he thinks it'd be amusing if Normie was doing Kool-Aid. Oh, yeah! Or even better, Hawaiian Punch.
Oh,
Here,
it's totally a Hawaiian Punch.
yes, has to be. Here he is, looking all bad, blank, planning the next moves against the Parkers as the Green Goblin, and he's sipping on a glass of Hawaiian
Okay,
Punch.
again, and we've established also with my headcanon on the fact that he, is. I mean, it's not even. It's canon that he's a Disney file. So I assume he's listening to the Lilo and Stitch soundtrack. So it's like a bunch of Elvis music, and he's literally in a warehouse pretending to be on a beach by himself, drinking Hawaiian Punch.
Yeah, no, that's even.
Normie is the dork. Normie is a dork.
So wait, did Vinkman just come up with a silly fan canon theory?
Yes, it's connected. And,
he guesses he did.
Yep.
It's not much, but it's a start for him. We have now brought you into the universe of fan canons there, Vinkman, and I'm adding it to my own personal. Who knows? As he continues to follow along with the show, maybe he'll come up with more? Question mark. We'll have to wait and see. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves, and until Kelly herself stars in a fan film adaptation of Spider-Girl number 27, Make Mine Mayday. Sincerely, Vinkman.
Thank you, Vinkman. Yay!
Speaking
yes,
of...
definitely Hawaiian Punch. Yeah, speaking of Vinkman, and even though he is a Patreon member, he keeps giving us gifts. Thank you for my fantastic 5 solo
variant cover, yeah.
Yeah.
He gave me the ANX number 2 variant cover. Also, so a couple episodes ago, I mentioned that I have been finishing up my digest of the Spider-Girl digests, and I did not have volume 12. So now, as of this episode, I am the proud owner of the complete collection of digests, and further cementing my my collection of MC2 memorabilia. Eventually, I will get the action figures, even though they're
not well. The legends are pricey, but I mean, you can normally find a good deal. Like if you're willing to get all 4 of the Toy Biz 1999 MC2 action figures, they're actually pretty cheap because they run about $40-50, so that means they're only about $12 each.
Yeah, which is real. Like, okay, they were like $7.99 when they came out, so that's really not bad. The Spider-Girl, I think, because it's been so long, and it's been like 7 or 8 or 9 waves ago, trying to find the Legend, which I have 2 actually. One that I've actually been working on customizing into a black suit Spider-Girl. Nice. The other one is staying in her perfect form, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to have all the digests and be able to reference them on the show, and so that really makes me happy, quite a bit happy. So I haven't had. I'm
hoping that this is finally it. That this is the last cover that I'm not aware, a variant cover I'm not aware of. Okay. Because I feel like every single time I turn around and I'm like, please tell me that Buzz and Dark Devil did not have variant covers. Like, please.
No. I've double checked. I cross-referenced with Spider-Fan. I even went to samruby.com via the Wayback Machine because I knew he had. He didn't have it. Spiderfan.org didn't have it, nor did Mike's Amazing World have it either. So I've cross-referenced it 3 different places. No other variant covers that I know of, other than until we get to Amazing Spider-Girl. So,
that one I do know I have all, unless there's a special one that's like very, 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 very rare. But I mean, I even have the scroll cover of the mistyped issue. Okay, I do have to say, you have said multiple times that they did 2 runs of that. They never did. So it's always going to be there's 2 17s. There was no 19 in Amazing Spider-Girl. There's 2 17s.
Well, the thing was, I thought there was going to be a second run, and I guess they never did. And so
I think they had planned on it, but I don't think it had the sales enough to reach that.
Hi, Dennis Ball.
Bye, Dennis Ball.
Bye, Dennis
Ball.
Ball.
Later. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah. Is there a cover for Wild?
Well, I wasn't. Yeah, there is a variant cover for Wild Thing too.
Do I really want that though?
That's the question. That's why he didn't order it yet.
Yeah. I mean, I need to go back and see what I've got because I'll be honest, I don't like touch Wild Thing. Like it's just there. But I do know I only have one of the two. I don't have both. So I guess I need to find that variant so I can say I have all of them, even though it's Wild Thing.
Yeah, it's Wild Thing. It's your favorite.
My favorite.
Yeah, it's so much your favorite. So I'm going to go through a little bit for our audio listeners and kind of go through some of the audio comments we had during the show. Kelly chastised me for me saying without sounding nerdy, Zach, you're explaining a comic book. This is true. Everyone, Vinkman says, everyone make sure you pre-order Spider-Girl Complete Collection Volume 3 like he has.
You really should, just so that way you can get a copy and hopefully it tells Marvel that people want to see more Spider-Girl.
Exactly. Matt Auger says, Marvel's afraid of Spider-Girl fans because they know how to get stuff done. How many saves from cancellations are the fans responsible for? I think at least 8. So I could be wrong.
It did feel almost like it should be a joke towards the end.
It was like a drinking game. It really was. To where when we finally got Spectacular Spider-Girl and we're like, we got it back, and then it's a mini-series that wasn't solicited as a mini-series.
Well, but I'm still gonna put this out there. They would have never put a series that they didn't think could carry sales on as an exclusive for Marvel Unlimited when it first started. They really did. They hinged Marvel Unlimited succeeding on Spider-Girl fans.
Yeah.
They really did. And then because it didn't quite work, they got mad like it was the story's fault. And it was I'll be honest, it really does feel like Marvel set that up for failure to begin with. But at the same time, just thinking, logically in general, and especially working in like a corporate situation, no, they used that because they knew it had consistent sales, and they were like, this is the safest bet that we can give it.
And let's let this be the foundation, and then be able to grow out, but have this. We know this core audience is going to always purchase, so that's our bread and butter, and then we can try to grow it out from there.
Yeah,
it sounds
too,
great on paper.
Well, it sounds great on paper, but it also too, to me, it was also the safe bet because they were also like, well, if it doesn't succeed, we were ending the series anyway.
Exactly.
So it felt it felt like that whole, at least that's the way it feels from a fan perspective. I don't necessarily know the ins and outs. I don't know if we have any kind of story or reference to when that was going on. But there's something about that always felt weird. Just for the fact that like nowadays, we make those jokes. Like I had Twitter followers. Kelly is one of them. That were making the memes, and there's one with Thor that makes me feel very powerful, because it makes it feel like Marvel's supposed to be scared of me, and I'm like, Marvel's not scared of Marvel like Mayday fans. They're more like nowadays. They're more like, you're still here.
We're terrified. You're like yeah, exactly.
So it's I don't know. I do wish that Marvel would do more, though. But.
Yeah, me too. Go on Twitter, follow Kelly at Make Mine Mayday, follow me at Spidey Radio, because we are having a great time on Twitter doing headcanon and crazy things, and me trying to explain.
It's fun, okay? It's really fun and informative. We get really nitty gritty into some comic lore here, which of course we would not be able to do if the comic book series was not so vast and well versed and just awesome and deep.
And if you didn't have a guy that literally has forgotten more about Spider-Man lore than the most of us remember writing it and helming it. Speaking of Tom DeFalco, I did get my version of Thunderstrike with his metal screaming head. So I did post on Twitter that if Thunderstrike was in a metal band, this is what he would look like, and so I put it right next to my mic. I thought it was hilarious. Nobody else thought it was. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not that funny. So yeah, Venkman basically lays it out. If you want to make us happy, just say that Mayday from Spider-Verse isn't the May from 982. Bring back Tom and Ron and pick up right where Spider-Girl at the end left off.
Okay, so here's my thing. We're never really going to be able to do that. And I know that we all like to say it, like, it's like, it would feel so nice. They've made it very, like, Marvel editorial has made that very clear that that's what's happening, and there's a reason why they have Peter's hand, which is very reminiscent of how they drew Flash. Spoilers, sorry guys. Flash's resurrection in this week's comics, where the hand, which is it also derives from Buffy, because everything has to derive from some pop culture reference from almost 15 years ago. But they popped the hand popping up out of the grave. That was them kind of signaling, but we can kind of go back to the way things were. Everything's fine now. And if they were to ever do any kind of Spider-Girl thing, they're not going to let us forget that part, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It bugs me, but at the same time, that's the life of comics. It's not, I mean, there's plenty of times in Peter's history that we would all like to forget.
Clone Saga? Elements.
I didn't say the Clone Saga.
Well. Sorry, there's one element of the Clone Saga. Unfortunately, it was written by Tom and drawn by Sabu Sema. The moment where it was weirdly immortalized in Spider-Man 3 with MJ. Like, of all the things.
Yeah, that thing. Things, Time Bomb.
God. Oh, Time Bomb.
But, I mean, there's good parts of Time Bomb, but the whole story as a whole should have gone away. But, I mean, I'm talking about, like, we don't like Sins Past. We don't like One More Day. We don't like,
I liked Sins Past the first 4 parts until we got to part 5 with the Norman reveal, and then I hated it. So
really, because there was that whole weird thing with the
letter and stuff like that.
What's the daughter's name? What's the daughter's name?
Yeah, Sarah.
Sarah Stacy. Sarah Stacy had the hots for who she thought was her father. Let's not No. But that was Sins Remembered though. Okay. Yeah, that was Sins Remembered.
Yeah.
Anyway, it all blurs together. The Stacy twins should not exist.
Yes, like the concept was interesting, and had they done the original intent, which was for it to be Peter to be the father, and then not involve Norman in any way, I think it might have been a weird, fascinating tale.
I don't think it would have bombed more than it already did. Like, Norman needed to be involved. It's just the twins themselves the hardest sell there. Period.
Yeah.
But anyway, all I was gonna say though is there's parts of Spider-Man history. There's parts of all comic book history that are not our favorite, or they don't fit well. They don't gel well, and unfortunately, that's kind of May's situation here with Spider-Verse. And really, we should just be thankful that it is just these little mini-series. She's not in an ongoing series that feels very wrong.
Yeah. Venkman, it didn't happen in 982, so
no,
it further illustrates his point of how 616 diverges and melds into 982. But this is definitely a tease for a future episode. Might be a question for the next Spider-Girl review episode, but do you think that Mayday being powerless storyline went on too long? You'll have to tune in. Right, Kelly?
Yeah. I mean, because we're going to have to talk about it, so we probably shouldn't spoil our opinions. Yeah. Although, I think you can... I have a bias, so, nothing was done wrong in Spider-Girl and Amazing Spider-Girl, and I'm okay. Some things I don't agree with in Spectacular Spider-Girl, but that's
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
that's a whole
Uh,
thing.
Vinkman said the first appearance MC2 figures are pretty affordable, like you said. He really likes the American Dream figure, and he wasn't sure what cover Kelly you have for Wild Thing 2. That's why he didn't order one yet. So,
You know what? You skipped over my own comment about the way my background looks.
hang on. My bad. I didn't mean to skip over you.
You did. Makes no sense, but it just ties into the aesthetic that is Spider-Girl.
Random, but I look so ready for it. Oh, that's great.
So, okay, for audio listeners, since Zach started laughing before he finished it, I just wrote random, but I look so ready for a 2008 Hot Topic Twilight MySpace photo shoot. Because
Sorry.
if you're watching the visuals, which you should be, I am currently in my bedroom area, and so I've got my little 2008 Urban Outfitters tapestry behind me that looks like the field from Twilight.
I just got
And
1,000 years popping in my head now because I'm in wedding season.
Okay. I mean, I was more into Paramore Decode mode,
the
but
Twilight, the Twilight part in my brain.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like back when the soundtrack was cool.
That's true. There was a lot, like the first soundtrack was a lot better than the last one.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, back to everything. It was like I thought about that, and I was like, you didn't even go over it. It's good.
And Matt was wondering why you were podcasting from the woods.
I needed to get my the thing is, I was in high school. I was basically about May's age during the Twilight MySpace saga emo kid. So I'm embracing it today for some reason.
Embrace it.
Embracing it.
So yeah, Parker Luck, what's that? Matt Bird says, I totally hate One More Day more than any other Spider-Man story ever because it forced more than everything to erase the best part of Spider-Man's history, which the writers and editors might dispute that for you, but I don't disagree. I especially I'm looking forward to eventually when we get to that, when I get to that in my look back series, Forgotten Era, talking about that period like Spectacular 250, like I mentioned.
I don't disagree with their reasoning. I disagree with how they handled it.
Yes. Lots of things. Yeah, so we'll kind of let everybody give some last minute comments, and we'll read them live, and then we'll begin our wrap up of this episode.
Ooh.
So just a little over 2 hours, which is really good. We went through this pretty quick. It was a quick brisk pace.
We did. We stayed on track today. We weren't like out in left field.
We weren't swirling as much as we normally do. This is good.
Yeah. Which is crazy considering like I'm almost done with my coffee.
I avoided.
This is a lot of coffee. This is a Trienta, and then I poured more coffee in it before we started.
See, I'm trying to avoid caffeine because of my heart. So I miss Cokes and coffee, and I could drink decaf, but I tried.
I mean, I'm sorry if this is upsetting you. I wasn't meaning that. I need it. I am the caffeine monster. Like if I cannot function without it. Okay.
If you can mainline coffee, I already know. Like you would. Like you to achieve sentience for you right now, especially the last few days. You need coffee. So
yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to DoorDash you another gallon of iced coffee. Just so
another gallon of ice, just for the hell of it.
Just for the hell of it, be like, here, this is gluten free.
It is. I mean, coffee is gluten free.
That's
true. It's
true.
not gluten free. I'd be questioning your coffee.
Yeah. You said Spider-Girl was one of your top 10 all-time favorites. What are some of the others, Kelly?
Out of Spider-Girl as a whole.
I think he's thinking of it as a whole.
Okay, well, I don't have it in my head. Like I don't have like a list down my head. But I would say so. Definitely the Mr. Nobody death of Kingpin storyline. Marked for Death. That one's a really
Yeah.
good storyline. Like to me, that's a really good storyline for all comics. Once again, and then of course I do like Normie being Venom slash Dusk slash whatever his name wound
Yeah.
up being because we never really got that.
He really never got a code name.
I really like Fantastic Five, the second Fantastic Five miniseries. Not that the first one isn't good either, but I really like that storyline.
Yeah.
Obviously, I like the wedding, the wedding annual.
Yeah.
Um, like in terms of like if we branch out with DC Comics, I like No Man's Land. I know people don't like it, but I love it. But at the same time, I realized earlier this week when because one of the things right now on Twitter is doing your point of view of the first time you started really getting into comics and showing off what like four of those comics would be. And so I was like, point of view, you're 8 years old. And so I was looking for like the storylines that I remember picking up back then. And No Man's Land started when I really started getting into comics. So that's probably why I like it so much. I realize that that's nostalgia lens, but you know, whatever. It's still, to me, it still holds up. And anything that's got Huntress is like Helena Bertinelli Huntress is great. So, yeah. But that's
Yeah.
obviously not 10. Like I would have to seriously think about it because there's so many different ones that I like, and it's a lot. Ultimately, it's a lot of Osborne
For
for
me,
some
I don't
reason.
have a top 10 really either. Um, but clearly, I have a very big soft spot for Clone Saga stories. So ASM 400 is one of my all-time favorites. Um, I can tell you my number one favorite Spidey story is Spectacular Volume 214 by Paul Jenkins and Pablo Rivera. And it's not for any other reason than it hit the closest to home for me. And was a very beautifully drawn story. Continuity wise, it was bonkers because you had Morbius there and didn't look anything like Morbius. In fact, me and Kevin used to argue about this one because his favorite character is Morbius, other than Spider-Man. And so it's a bad Morbius story, but I just love that story. That was with the quadriplegic cerebral palsy boy that almost gets killed by Morbius, and Peter saves him. And in a very kid who collected Spider-Man moment, he unmasks and shows him his real face. And you know, and you got to see and hear his perspective, and you saw the struggles that the families had, and talking with Jenkins on and off over the years, and when I've expressed my gratitude for that issue, um, because for those that don't know, my twin sister, was mentally and physically handicapped with cerebral palsy, and so you know, he said I got a lot of blowback, but I also got a lot of praise and a lot of similar stories to yours, and he's like, that's what was so gratifying to me. But the blowback was primarily like this one person that was just outraged because of one or two lines in there that just outraged them. But that's one of my favorites. Obviously, Spider Girl stuff. I love issue 100. I just think it's a great, like,
Oh
bombastic
yeah.
issue. Hobgoblin Lives, more Ron Friends art. Fantastic miniseries. I also, and he doesn't get as much praise for it. And him and Pat actually did work on it together. Pat did the inking on Revenge of the Green Goblin miniseries with Stern. I really liked that one. And then, of course, Peter Parker Spider-Man 75. Those are, and no, that's not 10, but that's just a few of my favorites that just are. I can pull those from memory, and a lot of these Spider Girl stories I can start pulling.
Well,
from
I mean,
memory.
I think my thing is like, what is most memorable to you? What like just kind of hits you, and you're like, oh, that was so good. And for me, a lot of it is Spider Girl. I mean, obviously, to me, it's a solid series. It's one of the reasons why I was like, I really don't want to grade anything because it's going to be biased and it's going to be like A's across the board, except for like, one random C story because it's not written by Tom. Um,
Issue 51.
issue 51. And yeah, we are going to get there. But, this is just such a special series that ran, in honesty, ran most of my childhood. I mean, not I was not even 8, so I was still 7 when this started, and I completed the series and finished reading the series in because it was 2010 with the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was 19. I wasn't quite 20. So my entire childhood and teenage years were spent reading this comic consistently. And that's a good chunk of formative years there. And the fact that I didn't really have anything that I was super angry about. I know that I said it, once about I remember reading April and I just remember going, and now we've jumped the shark, and I will continue to agree with that to an extent because it kind of did feel, the moment she came on in Amazing, it kind of did feel, okay, this is the end. We're getting to the end. And the fact that it still ran after that, honestly, after that storyline, and it did have the digital spec comics, and it did have the miniseries, and it did actually get a one-shot, was amazing because I mean, I don't think I was too different than most fans when April first showed up because we're like, oh man, not clones again.
Listen, even I was like, clones? If anybody can handle it, it's but yeah.
But see, and here's the thing though. How many times do I wind up in a Twitter conversation about April?
In terms of Spider-Man clones, her and Ben are.
She is the best. April is the best.
Yeah,
she's the best clone.
I might disagree with you a little. She's in my top 3, but maybe number 2 with Ben. But that's just my personal.
Nope.
But,
she's the best. She's the best.
Okay.
Kane is second. She's the best.
Oh, so that means Ben's third in your hierarchy of Spider-Man?
Yeah, because of hair. Yeah. It's a hierarchy.
Oh. Okay, well, I think
we should.
So speaking of clones, all right.
Yeah, so, speaking of clones, I think perfect outro time.
With that, I'm going to wrap up the show about here. More things to come. Next week, we're going to have our special lucky number 13th episode devoted to the Dark Devil miniseries this upcoming Tuesday night. Yes, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. No,
Justice for American Dream.
Oh, that's an old one. Sorry.
Well,
that was.
I'm just trying to remember.
That was a joke from a month, 3 months ago. I just keep everything in one folder now. So Make Mine Mayday next episode, Dark Devil 1 through 3, 7 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. It'll be here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Also, go to spidey-dude.com/events. It's right there at the very top, right next to home. I will be posting when we're doing our live streams. But also, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. We're getting very close. Eventually, we got 80 subscribers now, so we've added a few here and there, and so we get to 100, then we're going to be able to finally make it youtube.com/Spidey Network. So looking forward to that. We'll be returning the following week with Spectacular Radio's final episode, Monday the 19th, and then more ASM Classics on Thursday. Of course, a new ASM means a new Spidey Dude experience, and then we will be back covering the next 5 issues of Spider-Girl here on Make Mine Mayday. So, once again, thanks for listening, and if you want to join us at our favorite social medias, you can follow Kelly at... Where can I follow you, Kelly?
You can find me at Make Mine Mayday on Twitter, and you can find me on Instagram at kmcdaniel28. But really, it's probably better just to find my link tree, which is just linktree/Make Mine Mayday, and you will see everything that I get up to. It's got everything currently going on, or any kind of guest spots that I have been on, including Chris's Sal Buscema era podcast, where we discussed in the beginning of Inferno with the Hobgoblin.
That was a fun episode. Chris is a great guy. I'll be on that when he gets to 149 of spec. I will be on there to discuss Carrion and all the wackiness there. So basically anything clone related, you just call me and I'm there. But you can follow me on Twitter at Spidey Dude Radio or at Spidey Dude. Facebook at Spidey Dude Network on there. Also on Instagram. That is where you can like our Facebook page. That's where we do our live streams and stuff like that. And of course, Instagram. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next episode. Again, covering the last miniseries we'll see for a while, Dark Devil. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye guys.